All right, welcome everybody to today's broadcast. I'm Donna Penna, as you can see on my screen. This is take two for us. Again, um, this is an important word that we're trying to get out. Welcome, Thurston. So glad to have you here.
Hello, everybody.
Definitely could not do this on my own, everybody. You all know that. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so glad that you have decided to click on this discussion today. And I want to remind you to please like, subscribe, and share. This is the only way that we can get put up higher in the algorithms on YouTube and for more people to see what we are putting out there. And I know you all know this, it's a really, really important time for people to get information on emergency preparedness, personal protection, safety, and security, and whatever else we put out there. And so we need your help in doing that. Please subscribe so that you know that when our videos are coming out, and please share with your friends and family. I mean, if you knew what was coming, you would get this information out to them. Don't leave your friends and families just hanging there, not knowing what to do. In times of emergency and in these other times. I know you won't do that. I know that we're in hard times and that I'm not a negative Nancy, but the times are not going to get any easier. And so this is one way that you can get information out to them and you can help them prepare. So thank you for being with us. So today, we're going to talk today about, we've talked about being ready and moving into action and those things. But today we want to talk about a little bit about recovery, crisis recovery. It's something that I don't think we hear a lot about. And, unless you are in the field of, emergency response teams or, first responders and things like that, we really don't hear a lot about recovery after disasters and how do we handle those things. I am, I'm dealing with a little bit of that on my end personally with things that we've gone through with, my daughter's business being in the building that burnt down. And, that's where we had some of our classes. And so we are not able to have them there anymore, but I'm seeing how things unfold in the days and the weeks and even the months after we go through a disaster. And, the emotions, little things that come up that we think we're okay and we have to process them. So I'm going to turn it over to Thurston a little bit for to get us started on this I think it's very, very, very important discussion today. So take it away, Thurston.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start off with, we're talking about the entire preparedness cycle, meaning that, yes, there's an aspect of preparation where we prepare for emergencies and crisis and disasters. Then there's a stage of readiness, what we have to do to make ourselves competent to address these disasters, emergencies, and crisis. And then there's a response phase. We prepared, we were competent, ready, we're trained, and now it's our response. The area that we're going to focus on, as Donna said before, is the recovery process. Not much attention is paid toward recovery. And even worse is that there's usually no planning for recovery. Let's talk about what recovery is in the first place. When we talk about recovery, we're talking about an individual, the community, or an organization that engages in the process or recovery process that is designed to make things better or bring things back to normal as much as possible as after a disaster or after a crisis or emergency situation. And so that's what recovery is. Put it simply, is to make things back to as normal as possible. Now, for that to happen, it entails an assessment, first of all, so that we can have the skills, have the experience, and have the material and even human resources to be able to recover in the first place. That's going to take planning. It just doesn't happen. Okay. Now, when we talk about the plan, it's going to take some time set aside, just like with planning anything, to set aside and to face some serious and hard facts that aren't really pleasant to deal with. Okay, what I mean by that is when we're talking about coming up with a recovery plan, we need to start with assessing what do we have to lose if a disaster, or emergency, or crisis occurs. What do we run the risk of losing? And that means everything, from everything materially to maybe having certain things repaired on a minor end, or dealing with the loss of life at one end, or just dealing with just a disruption in our routine. But everything in between those two, as well as the worst and the minimum that can happen, we have to be able to recover from. Because no matter how dramatic, no matter how small, the idea, the objective is to go back to normal as much as possible. But we have to start thinking about that. Nobody wants to sit down and talk about if a disaster were to occur. Yeah, we've stocked our shelves, we've gotten training, we have medical kits, we have medical training, we're ready, we're capable, but suppose one of our scenarios manifests where we lose our home. How do we recover from that? We need to start thinking about that, because many of us prepare as if, and it's fine to use faith and exercise faith, because I do too. And I prepare for the worst and trust God with the outcome. I do. But many times the outcome is not what we plan or what we expect. But we have to prepare for the worst. Preparing for the worst may be, if I lose my house, where do I go? If my business burns down, what do I do? If one of my family members loses their life in this particular emergency or crisis, how do we handle it? These are the things we have to talk about and we have to assess. Is our house insurance or our business insurance up to date? Life insurance policies. See, these are things we have to talk about. We have to think about. Right. Okay. Have an apartment. You have apartment insurance. If we lose everything, where's another go-to source if we need furniture? What about clothing? These are things we have to think about, because I hate to say it, if you don't think about it, you're going to have to depend upon somebody else thinking about it for you. And those resources may not be available to you at the time because they're overwhelmed. Okay, so these are the things we have to talk about, we have to think about.
Well, and I think too, again, this comes up in every discussion we have, is that, we're living our everyday lives. We're all, especially we're here, we're overwhelmed with everything that we have to do through the day. And, to make time to do that is just, we just don't, first of all, most people don't even think about it, or a lot, I would say most.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
think also, Thurston, that I think it makes it so uncomfortable to some to really think about that. And it does bring on to some people fear.
Yes.
And I don't want that feeling. I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to live in fear. And so there's that, kind of that line
Mhm.
between being fearful and obsessed with that,
And overwhelmed.
overwhelmed.
That word comes up often.
Yeah.
And that's facts. That is facts. One thing I didn't stress, and I meant to stress, is that along with every phase of dealing with a crisis situation, recovery is one of those phases as well. That's a process.
Mhm.
It's not something that we're going to, for most of us anyway, something we're going to get our head and our heart around immediately.
Yeah.
We may not have the resources, may not have the experience, may not be spiritually or mentally prepared for right now. But it's a process. It is a process.
Mm-hmm.
But the process begins when we begin to accept the reality of it, and that's when it begins. I believe the last discussion we had was talking about um, being prepared for. I'm sorry. It's like nobody knows what they're going to do until they actually get into a situation. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you better have an idea
Right.
what what you're going to do, and that means we have to begin thinking about the very thing that may trigger fear, insecurity, and all that, because fear and insecurity thrives on the fact that we don't address it. We
Mm,
don't address it.
that's a good
And
point.
yes, and we'll find, just like with anything else, the more we face the reality of it, the less fearful we are, and the more confidence we become.
Mm,
And also in this recovery process, going through the motions of what is entailed. And, who wants to talk about making funeral arrangements?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the more you talk about it, the more you find out what's entailed, uh, or it's involved in doing it, the less apprehension you're going to get. Probably not going to be all cookie crunch with it eventually, but at least you have overcome that hurdle
Mm-hmm.
of reluctance to want to deal with it.
Yeah, and I think too, if we keep in our minds as well that it's not just for us, that we're doing it for our loved
Yes,
ones,
yes,
and in that respect, making funeral arrangements, that they won't have to deal with
exactly,
your mess once you're gone, you
exactly.
know.
Exactly. Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. So it's not, and that's a very good point. Many of us that have the responsibility for the care of the rest of our family basically shoulder all of this responsibility. But what if something happens to you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you considered what the backup plan is and how you can support, by planning, how you can support the recovery of your family or your group in your absence?
Mm-hmm.
That's something we need to think about. And then when we think about it, process it, plan, and then practice that process or that plan to make sure that it works. In the areas that it doesn't seem to work or it doesn't seem to fit, or it needs to be revised, then you do that. But
Right.
again, understand it's a process.
Yeah,
It's a process.
for sure.
And so um, now having stated all of that, we talked about pretty much, and when we talk about preparedness, we often focus on a lot of the material aspects of it, and protection and security, but we don't deal a whole lot with the emotional or the spiritual part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is another area that's often neglected, even for those that deal with crises and emergencies on a regular basis. Many of those individuals do the recovery portion of it poorly, if at all. We as human beings, depending upon our upbringing, depending upon our training or lack thereof, we don't do mental or spiritual recovery well at all. You have to be trained to do that. We have to be compelled or forced to do it. Because if left on our own, I know I can speak for myself as well, and I think I represent the way I used to respond, and I have to discipline myself not to respond that way to crisis, is I go into survival mode. And to a certain degree, to a certain point, you have to go into survival mode. And what I mean by survival mode is you numb yourself to emotion so that you can get things done. Because emotion applied in certain situations can cause more problems than can help. So we learn how to manage them. You're supposed to learn how to manage them, not suppress them, but learn how to manage them so you can still get things done. But in the process of recovery, you allow that natural and normal process of expressing your emotions so that you heal from the experience and not traumatized by it.
Okay,
And that is,
I want you to say that again because that is really good. Yeah, can you say that again because it's important.
sure. We that deal with crisis and emergency situations, usually what happens is that we go into a survival mode. And it's natural and it's typically normal, especially if you're an individual that's usually in control, you're in leadership, somebody needs to take lead of the situation. You have to manage your emotions so that you can get things done. But managing your emotions and suppressing them are two different things. You have to allow time for your emotions to be managed so that you can get things done. But after things are done, or in the process of doing things, let's put it that way, in the process of still doing things, you have to allow yourself to express your emotions. Because if not, basically we weaponize our emotions against ourselves and ultimately against other people as well, that are those that are close to us.
Right. And not dealing with it at that time just pushes off to having to deal with it farther down the road. And then
Right.
at that point can become even more of an issue because it's grown.
Yes.
It's like this pressure that just wants to, whatever way it explodes, and so
usually there's a leakage over a period of time until there's an explosion.
Yeah.
We as human beings are just not designed, and arguably so, depending on what you believe, we are blessed with emotions. They are the safety valve to help us deal with things, happy or sad or traumatic. And when used properly, we'll be okay going through those situations. But if suppressed or distorted or perverted in any such way, then we do harm to ourselves. And, you know, again, this is not something that most people are are raised to do.
Mhm.
This is something we have to train ourselves to do for most of us. Using my own experience, I was going through a lot of things domestically, at home, and financially, and for a number of years, things were going on in the church fellowship that I was fellowshipping with at the time. There was a lot of turmoil
Mhm.
that was occurring. In other words, I was going through a lot of crisis. I was depressed and didn't even know it.
Mm.
I didn't even realize I was depressed until a supervisor and at that particular time I was working in mental health as well too.
That.
Yes, and working in mental health and operating as a minister, assistant pastor.
Well,
Absolutely, yes. And I am speaking to you as well, pastors, ministers, police officers, EMTs, paramedics, nurses, doctors, all of you that are in those positions of responsibility, where you carry the burdens of the world on your shoulders. I went into survival mode, which meant that I numbed myself emotionally to the point where, do you know, I was mowing my lawn one day after I got delivered, after I realized what was going on and got some help.
yeah.
I was mowing the lawn one day, and I had mowed that lawn for several years. And there was a section of my house where I was mowing the lawn that appeared to me to be the first time I ever saw it.
Hmm.
Because all I was doing for years was going through the motions.
Mm.
I turned myself off to the life that was moving on around me.
Mm.
And that's what happens. We have to be in a place where we allow ourselves and allow those in our family or allow those in our group or organization to be able to express their emotions as a result of whatever event that has occurred, so that they can process that thing so it doesn't become toxic down along the line. But we also have to train people to cooperate with that process. See, that's the other side of the problem. It's okay to create opportunities for people to express themselves and say it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to feel afraid. It's okay, these things. But if the person doesn't take advantage or of the opportunity to be able to express and cooperate with the process of their own healing, then it's like you hit a brick wall.
Yeah, and
Because,
and I'm
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking, and in like your situation, like so many of us, we put up that wall, we keep
Yes,
going, and uh, so we don't address it. We don't know how to, like you said, we weren't taught, but also, as you're talking, I'm thinking we all need each other. We don't
yes,
want to, it's not good to isolate.
yes. Oh,
I know how
isolation is the
that is.
worst thing.
I know, and
Oh,
especially for those who are in control kind of people, our
yes,
emotions, we're taught don't have any emotions, come from family backgrounds where you don't show your emotions,
Yes,
or,
yes.
you know,
And you know why?
go ahead.
Because we're vulnerable.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You're a leader. I'm supposed to be in
Mhm.
control. Like you said, I'm supposed to have it all together.
Yep, yep,
And I don't want people to look at me this way because I'm supposed to be over this and doing
yep.
this, and I'm supposed to have it all together. How can I hold it all together? I got to hold it together for everybody, you know, so there's all
Yes,
these different
yes,
things. And I
yes,
think, you know, people have to realize they cannot, should not isolate, and that you are not alone.
yes,
And so
exactly.
that's why, again, so important to have, to put this out there for
Yeah.
people in our sphere, you know, of, like you said, just to understand that.
Right. And you know, and I also come from a background where even if you did express emotions, you never express your emotions in front of your subordinates.
Mhm,
But doggone it, they need to see an
mhm.
example
Right.
of what they have to do. That's what leadership is. You lead the
Yeah.
way.
Yes. Yes.
That was a lie.
Yeah.
That was a lie that I was taught, and it was a lie that I lived.
Mhm.
And we need to put that to bed.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, how are people going to learn to do what you even know what you're supposed to do, but you refuse to take the leadership and be the example so that they see what it looks like.
Right. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have this view of a leader, this picture of who, what a leader is like, and the characteristics, and you know, it's like there are two different understandings of what a leader really is. And so depending on which
Yeah,
one
yeah.
you're coming from, which paradigm, you
And
know,
down there, there's more than two.
yeah, sure.
But yes,
Yeah, important.
but it's very it's very toxic. And one thing that you pointed out is very important. We need each other. It's not a one person thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've I've seen or have been told by individuals that are in leadership, you know, hey, yeah, you need to go talk to somebody. Or, you know, we have a program and you need to go talk. But they don't do it themselves.
Yeah.
And because you've never done it, now you have this individual that's afraid to look a certain way because they sought out help.
Right.
And so they have to make excuses why, oh, you know, well, I think that my wife said that I need help, so that's why I'm going. No, you know, nobody, nobody should feel um, weak or less than because you ask for help.
Yeah.
That's crazy thinking, but it's crazy thinking that we all have suffered from over a period of time.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so then you see what we see walking around now, you know, and we're, you know,
Exactly.
in certain ways, I feel like I'm part of that, you know, and
Yeah.
I realized it, you know,
Yes.
we just simple as we were talking this morning about, we need help with this organization, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's hard
Absolutely.
to say, it is very hard for some people to say, you know, and I think for those of us too that have worked with, there's so much, you know, that we've worked with populations who asked for help all the time when they
Oh,
really could do more on their own, and you don't want to
yes.
be like that, so you feel funny about asking for help. And again, it goes back, but and you know, really that is, it's just coming to me now, that really is a a side of pride,
Oh,
a kind of pride, you know,
absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
pride comes before the fall.
Yes, it
And
does.
so,
And
pride is not just like, I'm just a proud person, I'm, arrogant, whatever. It can be
right.
in other ways. I need help and I can't ask you. I don't want to ask you,
Yes,
I don't want to ask for help.
yes, yes. Oh, I don't,
Good. I'm
I'm
good.
not like them. I'm not the ones that need the help. I'm here to help.
Yes.
You have automatically just indicated to everybody that heard that statement that you're not like us,
Mm-hmm.
that you're separate from us, not only separate from us, but
You're
you're above
better.
us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still good. And and honestly, Donna, that's one of the many unhealthy coping skills
Mm-hmm.
that are developed for people that don't know how or refuse to enroll in the recovery process. Some people, especially those among us that are control freaks, if I, if I can call them that, is that they pride themselves on the fact that because I'm in control of my emotions, or I suppress my emotions, or I have to be in control of everything. That's how I get things done. You know what? They're right. They're
Mm-hmm.
right. They do get things done,
Right.
but at what expense?
Mm.
Because you refuse to enter or process in a normal, natural way to stay healthy, what happens is you begin to operate in these coping skills, or you compensate with these coping skills that are unhealthy. And what are those coping skills? That's how we have addictions of all sorts: sexual, chemical,
Mm-hmm.
even gaming.
Mm-hmm.
I would That was part of my escapism,
Mm.
is I would game for hours, because as long as I was gaming, I didn't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to deal with anything in my mind. One of the many unhealthy coping skills. Some of us eat,
Mm-hmm.
some of us do. That's what you call a workaholic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some of us shop for things we not only don't need, but we can't afford.
Right.
It's all these coping mechanisms that we've devised that is our addiction of choice, so
Mm-hmm.
that we don't have to face the emotions or face our vulnerabilities, so that we can heal and grow.
Yeah, well, thanks for answering. You must have been reading my mind, because I was going to ask you, so in what ways does this manifest itself? And anywhere you see those things, it all goes back to something that needs to be healed, something needs to be
Yes,
addressed and healed inside of
yes,
our own hearts. And if we don't take care of that processing, going through it now, as again we said earlier, it will manifest in the future. And it might not just be you yourself that is going to be hurt. It's going to be the people around
yes,
you. And
absolutely.
it can be taken to extremes. We see that in extreme situations where
Yes,
a gunman
absolutely.
goes in and just
That's
kills
right.
people, or
That's right. Or domestic violence.
domestic violence. Who are you going to hurt down the line if you
Yes,
don't take care of it now? So
yes. And
uh,
I would challenge anybody to go back and look at the first responders in any catastrophic event.
mm,
You'll find it's so common, nobody talks about it anymore. These individuals that were instrumental in saving lives, or did the best they could
mhm.
to save lives and to respond to these catastrophic events, end up committing suicide. It happens so often now, nobody really talks about it.
Well, and that's what, as you're saying, this is coming to my mind as well, that we can have an addiction to, if we are helpers, and we are always the one that wants to help others, we can have an addiction to those feelings that we get for helping others. And when disasters pass and time goes by,
Oh,
and we're not
yes.
receiving that, we've got to receive it in some other way, or we continue on that same path, not
Right.
not realizing it. And we're not, again, we're not judging people. We want to help people in this area,
And,
even ourselves.
and
Like,
yes, that's true.
but
That's
but we're not you're not realizing even that you have this issue until it really becomes something big. But you could
and
be like you're feeding on that.
yes, yes. And most of us are not self-aware enough to
Right.
recognize certain things. And so we need to listen to people around us, not ignore them, listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst thing, I remember a friend Charlie,
Mm-hmm.
and he's so right. Many of us will be satisfied in going to that dark room in our own heads
Mm.
where nothing ever good has ever come out of.
Yeah.
Nothing good has ever come out of that dark room.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the very place we need to avoid. Because too many monsters hide in the dark.
Mm.
But once they're exposed,
Well, that's
you know,
it. And the light needs to expose.
yes,
The light will expose it. The smallest light will
yes,
expose the darkness. We need to
that's
be
right.
aware and
That's
awake
right.
to that, and
That's right.
then be moved to action. And that is part of what we're doing, is we're trying to shine the light in this area, in hopes that
Mhm.
people will wake up. Oh yeah, hey, I never thought of that before. And I never
Yeah,
even had a thought about
yeah.
being aware of my own self and
Yes, exactly.
the darkness
Exactly.
within me. Because,
Yes.
you know,
The whole recovery process, even the material side of it, happens a lot smoother when you've taken care of the mental, psychological, emotional, and spiritual part of
mhm,
it. The process will be a lot smoother. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's just not. It's just not. Something
yeah,
has happened, some crisis has occurred that catastrophically affected your life and the lives of those around you. It's not going to be easy. It's not. But the fact is that nothing good comes unless there's sacrifice.
mm,
And also, I love the way you said that the light exposes the darkness. It doesn't matter how dark it is, because um, even the tiniest light
mhm,
is extremely bright when it's really, really dark.
yes,
So
yeah,
we can't lose hope. And if you realize something, that's light. And that's more than enough you need to begin the process
yeah,
of getting back. And, I don't even like using the word getting back to the way things were. I want to say coming back to your new normal,
mhm,
because no matter what, we're not going to be the same person.
no,
It doesn't mean we have to end up being worse off than we were before. When
yeah.
we can actually be better.
Don't stay in that place.
Yes.
I was thinking of somebody on one of my Facebook posts, when I put something about the Spire, and she said we had a fire several years ago, one of the hardest things to come back from, but that's the thing, is to know, again, it's all up here. Okay, that happened, it was traumatizing, it was, even if I lost everything, but I'm going to move forward and it's going to be better. There's something better waiting for me. There's it's new, it's
Yeah.
all new, and again, it's the mindset. But I want to, unless you have more that you want to talk about on that,
Yes.
are you?
If you know as a minister, even as an instructor or a trainer, I look at it, we're constantly trying to encourage, especially in situations where people have been through catastrophic events, to get them in love with hope.
Mm.
And not establish this love affair with what has hurt and damaged them in the past.
Mm. That's a good
Because
way to put it.
that's how we're stuck. We literally we become in love with those feelings
Mm-hmm.
that are triggered, that we can't fall in love with the hope of a tomorrow.
Mm.
And it's a challenge.
That is really good. Yeah. Hope for tomorrow.
It's a challenge.
I feel like, even, just in these times that we're in, so many people need to have encouragement and to find that hope again. It's just so important to encourage others, you know. And again, I just feel like I got to say it again, is that we've got to be there for one another. And I believe
Yes.
that in these coming days, um, we may be forced to, whether we like it or not.
Yeah,
Those of
that's
us
right.
who like to be alone and by ourselves,
Right.
we need each other. We need each other to survive. So, what would you say? And maybe this can be a way to wrap it up. And unless you have other stuff that you want to add in, I don't know if you completed your
Pretty much.
everything you wanted to. Okay, so what would you say to somebody who would see this video and it would, kind of tug at their heart, something inside of them that makes them realize, you know what, I think I've got some issues, from whether it was a past trauma or disaster, or because I'm always, I'm a first responder and I'm dealing with this tragedy all the time, or seeing people hurt all the time. What do I do? Like, what's the first step? What should I do? Who should I reach out to? What would you say to people? And again, I just is coming to my mind. I want to make this disclaimer. I probably should have made it in the beginning. And we've not said anything, I think, that, would get us in trouble anywhere on YouTube or elsewhere, but we are not, licensed psychiatrists or psychologists, or you are a minister, but anything that we are just having a discussion here about this recovery process. So some people may need to be with, more professional,
And,
licensed people to help
and
them.
that's what I would, and that's what I would encourage. First and foremost, I want to address those individuals that are in such a dark place that they feel, to relieve their torment, they have to hurt themselves. I want to encourage you. First and foremost, call someone that can help.
Mhm.
Suicide line, family member that you trust, but you need to call someone. That is a burden that you cannot handle by yourself. And the answer is not destroying your life. It's, again, I want to encourage you to fall in love with hope and to learn to despise that which would threaten that love. Also, I would say individuals that have a problem with sharing with others. First, and believe me, I can understand why some people are reluctant to ask for help, because you've been hurt by other people before. I get it, I understand.
Mhm.
And it's it's difficult to trust people, but I guarantee you there's somebody somewhere that wants more for you than you want for yourself.
Mhm.
That you're going to have to trust a little bit. And it's an investment. You're investing a little trust so that you can get a return for yourself. This is something you're doing for yourself.
Mm.
And by neglecting yourself and your needs emotionally, psychologically, for the benefit of others, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. You can best help people if you've helped yourself.
Mm. I'm taking notes as usual, so. This has been, this is a good, really great discussion that we're having today. So let me finish my thought process here. Because, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved this discussion. I think it is so important these days and will be extremely important in the days to come.
I agree. And I think also, Donna, we have to surround ourselves with people that don't they don't necessarily, not people that necessarily are gloom and doom speakers, but people that go beyond the fluff
Mhm.
and that will help elevate you to a place where you can guard all the years and all the time and effort you've invested in yourself and in your family and your organization. You just don't want to just let that time and effort to go to waste
Mhm.
when there are certain things you can begin doing. Just begin doing. You're not going to do it all at once, one shot. It's not going to happen all in one day, but begin doing to get a return on the investment of your life.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's a process. It is a process. And wow, this has been really good. I really do hope and pray that this reaches the people that it needs to reach. Um, are there any, well, I don't know if we want to, and I don't know if you have any, I think I'm going to put some links below in the description, maybe of some helplines, or, if you might know of any
Well, if
places.
every location, that is considered around the world too now, but
Mhm.
there's usually a suicide hotline that is easily accessible. And if nothing else, call your emergency number
Mhm.
and just tell them you need help. It will
And
connect
if
you to.
it's not that, if it's not that stage
If
of
it's not that severe, if it's not that severe, then I would say if you have access to a minister or a pastor, or you need counseling or therapy of some sort, because many of us, can I be honest, we're all kind of jacked up. we all are. We really are. And some of us have the resources um, to, to get a certain level of work done, and some of us don't. But you have to start somewhere. And a lot of times, a lot can be done, because even if you go for for therapy or go for counseling, they're not going to do the work for you.
Mm,
You still have to do the work.
yes.
Do some research on your own. You know you, and I pray that as a result of our discussion here, you begin a process of knowing yourself even better. But after you do that, seek out the resources that you believe you think you need. Because if you go to somebody else, you're going to have to express that anyway, and they're going to have to figure it out. And they figure it out because of what you tell them.
Right. Yeah. And if you are a first responder, emergency responder, and I'm sure that you could go to your,
Employee assistance programs,
yeah, and
your organization,
they'll have something for you that can help you. At the very least, do not try to go through things yourself. Have somebody that you can even start with to express some of the things that you're going through, and even they might be able to. And of course, you're going to choose those who are trustworthy, and that they can maybe point you to a place that can help you or someone that can help you. So in wrapping it all up, at the very basic level, in our emergency preparedness, we prepare, we're preparedness, our readiness, our response, and then our recovery. We need to take a little bit of time to think about if something does happen, or we're preparing for what happens when we are gone, to have some kind of a recovery plan, ideas at the very least of what we would do. Did I sum that up pretty good? I don't know.
You did pretty good.
Any closing words?
No, I just want to encourage everybody. You've invested a lot in your life that you've built. Let's do what we need to do to protect it.
Yes, because when you get to be my age, you're gonna look back. No, we're not gonna, no regrets, but it's a very short time. It's a very short time. So Leah, let's make the best of it. Okay. Thank you, Thurston. Again, another power-packed session. Really appreciate you. Really.
Thank everybody for the opportunity to share and be vulnerable.
Yeah, please, again, share, like, subscribe, share, get the word out to those who can really benefit from this. And I'll put some links below. If you are feeling in your heart that you want to help us to continue to do what we're doing, please go to our website, which I'll put that link below, and there's a donate button there. I don't care, $1, $5, whatever, 5 million, whatever you want to give us. But we are determined that we're going to keep on doing what we're called to do. And God is our provider. And so doesn't mean we don't need your help. So please help us out if you can. And we'll see you for the next one. I'm not sure what we're going to be discussing yet, but we will see you then, everybody. Thank you. And see you on the next one.
Bye-bye, everyone.